welcome to this edition of Trader Talk TV. Today we're coming from the office again. Yippee, we're finally making our way back to normality. Today we've got Stephen from MiQ in the office. Stephen, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you very much. So,
thanks for coming into the office. I'm great, thank you very much. Thank you for coming into the office. Today Stephen's going to talk about sort of trading around YouTube. Obviously there's a lot of spend going into the YouTube sort of channel, but who's applying a trading capability, a data capability and a brand safe capability, and MiQ obviously do a lot of that. But before we jump into that, Stephen, can you just do a little intro about yourself, what you do at MiQ?
Yeah, not a problem. So start with what MiQ is. MiQ is a programmatic media partner, and essentially what we do is we layer on loads of data and tech to ensure that we reach really core KPIs, not just top line KPIs. We want to answer business challenges. And from that we've sort of diversified from sign display to move into the world of location, video, and obviously YouTube and connected TV, which we'll talk about today. And that's sort of where my remit comes in. Essentially I'm here to sort of build out the emerging products and ensure that they fit the purpose and have a right to play in market.
Brilliant. So we're talking about YouTube today. Obviously everybody knows about YouTube, but it is possibly the biggest CTV channel in the world, and probably be a lot of viewers are shouting and screaming at the screen right now saying it's not CTV. It is outside the US, let's be honest here. But just give us sort of an overview of what MiQ sees around YouTube. And it's a huge channel, the growth is immense, spend is insane going into it, but just give us sort of top line stuff. A lot of people would know, but like giving your top line view.
Yeah, not a problem. So we all know, as Kieran talked about, that YouTube's an absolutely unbelievable way to reach your audience. On the face of it, it seems a really cheap way to be in a really contextual environment. There's problems around YouTube though, and the biggest problems we've got are the lack of insights. Because of that lack of insight, there's no way for traders to really intelligently optimize, and then inevitably there becomes a media wastage element to it. Because of that media wastage element, that's the sort of education piece we've got to talk about in terms of people think YouTube's a cheap way to reach this audience.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look at the face of it and say, have you hit the audience you want to hit?
Yeah.
Suddenly you get to a point where actually it could be expensive.
Do you think that currently a lot of brand marketers who are buying across YouTube is just a reach and frequency exercise in many ways? I want to hit as many eyeballs as possible. So they kind of just buy across it without thinking about the performance aspect, without thinking about the trading aspect, and without thinking really about the UGC brand safety, which is a huge issue in YouTube. Let's be honest with you, like it is full of junk, but it's also full of gems at the same time as well.
Exactly that, and I think you're completely right. I think at the moment it's like I need to be in YouTube, but I don't know how or what to do with it. So I'm just going to get there, reach and frequency, and then the second problem with that is that it sort of ties in with their TV strategy, but actually from an activation point of view, extremely siloed. So we've got to try and work out how we connect those two things together.
So MiQ has a reputation of being one of the great trading organisations in programmatic. So I want to talk about that first, because it's been able to build on the reputation you have in display and online video, which is where you've built your sort of your credibility and your trading smarts, and applying that to YouTube. So let's talk a bit about that. I want to talk, how are you bringing that capability from that world into YouTube? So let's just start there.
It's a great question. I think the first thing that we always start with at MiQ is how do we have a right to play? We don't just want to be a reseller. And the big thing that we're great at MiQ is insights. So if I just start off here, the first thing that we can start to look at is the API. So the YouTube API is an open source API, and essentially what that provides us with is loads more information. So what do I mean by that? So say you're trading within DV360 and you're just trading for YouTube. Suddenly you'll get to a point where you'll run a report and you'll get stuff back. So you'll get, right, I know what my impressions are, I know what my clicks are, I know what my views are, I know VTR, right? That's pretty much it from a YouTube perspective in terms of what you're getting back when you run a campaign. Suddenly now, if you unlock the power of the API, you suddenly start to get a wealth of more information. So what does that mean? You can start to see the video name, you can start to see the description of that video,
right?
You can see when it was posted, so the date. And so straight off the bat, from an insight perspective, we're in a really strong position to be able to sort of give a who, what and why is working in the campaign, because we can start to look at trends, not just top line impressions, etc.
So you're able to sort of dig into it a little bit more.
Exactly.
So DV360's the access to that just gives you this top line stuff, but getting into the API and connecting into the API, you see a lot more that you can actually bring. So how do you bring this into your trading practice, right?
Yeah.
So you've obviously set up a lot of traders. You've got traders within within MiQ. And you said media IQ, but apologies. Within MiQ, how do you bring that specific sort of those sort of trading points into a trading capability?
It's a good question again, and basically it's the intelligent guys in India, our analysts, that look at this data, and so we suddenly recreate this insight piece into activation. And what we do with that is, I'll give you some prime examples of how we can activate based off the API. So the first one would be channel recommender, is what we call.
Yeah.
A channel recommender is essentially taking the top performing videos that are currently running on our YouTube campaign. So we run a campaign for a brand or a marketeer. We look at the top performing videos and we take that description out of the API. We take that description and then we run it and try and find similar videos with similar descriptions off the basis in theory that actually these will perform just as good as the top performing videos. Suddenly we're extending our reach across top performing videos. Second one is search optimization, which sounds like it's something else. But essentially what that is we are taking keywords from any given campaign. So if you're looking at food or diets or etc., what are the keywords that people will be searching in YouTube? And we take that through via the API and we look for the top videos that appear within the search engine, and then we will then look to build a strategy on that. And then the final one, which is another example, which I think is a really interesting one that I don't think people are doing a lot of at the moment, is trends outside of video. And what I mean by this is, at the moment when you run a YouTube strategy, traditionally what we do is we just look at complete contextual strategies in terms of what's the contextual relevancy of that video, where are our audience. Actually, is there trends outside of the video that we're appearing in front of that could optimize performance? An example of that would be a famous vlogger posting a video, the very next day people are desperate to see that video. So would they therefore be more inclined to skip the ads because they're so desperate to see the content versus an old video that vlogger's appeared in, that actually they're in a more browsing state of mind and therefore maybe more susceptible to watch the advert. So could something like simply as the date that the video is posted start to drive performance on future campaigns?
So this insight then informs your trading practices.
Exactly
across.
that.
So moving on from this then, you've layered in the trading capability, right, with your trading team from to the API access.
Yeah.
How then do you sort of layer in sort of insights, measurement, etc.? Because you've got a couple of interesting relationships with some ad tech vendors, Samba TV being one, Pixelate. Talk about those relationships and how they, that helps to sort of improve the trading piece as well.
Yeah, no worries. So let's just go back to the start. So we sort of say lack of insight. We said optimization.
Yeah.
We said media wastage. Wastage. We said siloed against TV.
Yeah.
And then the big one that we sort of haven't covered, but we're going to cover now, is brand safety.
Yeah.
So brand safety is huge in YouTube, and I think we all know within the industry it comes up so much.
So many problems, so many bad stories about ads popping up against erroneous content.
Exactly that, and I think for us, when we wanted to step into this environment, it was really important for us to ensure that we nailed this, because we have such strong relationships with our brands and our agencies that we didn't want to therefore put them in a position where they weren't safe. So therefore we created a relationship with a company called Pixability.
Pixability.
Yeah, Pixability, rolls off the tongue. And essentially what they do is they as simply as build out a whitelist for us. So if you take this is as the YouTube environment, they will say, right, this section is your brand safe environment that you want to trade in. Now these whitelists are completely customized to any given campaign. So we can turn around to them and go, we want to hit this audience, we want to exclude this kind of content, and they'll build out that whitelist. This can extend across any given language. So we've been doing this in UAE, looking Arabic site list as well. But on top of that, this is where MiQ want to ensure that we add something to that Pixability relationship. So again, we start to plug in that API. And what does that do? So essentially, there's a big argument, there's a massive difference between brand safety and brand relevancy, or brand suitability. People say to me, well, surely the audience targeting will be the brand suitability for you. That will make sure that the videos are suitable. But unfortunately, with the way that Google is in terms of their audience segments, they're quite broad. Example of that would be, we had an engineering client come to us. and they were like, this is what we're running on YouTube at the moment, can you recommend some ideas, or what could you do better? And we ran through their campaign and the impressions through the API, and what we saw was actually they were appearing in content with kids playing with trains. So although brand safe, completely irrelevant to their campaign, and suddenly they're hitting that media wastage problem. So within MiQ, within that API, we suddenly want to then minimize this even more, and then suddenly say, okay, well this is brand safe, but this is brand suitable. So suddenly we've gone from API giving us insight to activation to now making sure that we narrow not just brand safety, but manage the brand suitability. So that's where we go with Pixability. And then you mentioned Samba TV, which is the really exciting opportunity, I think, for this year for YouTube. We've been running it for 2 or 3 years now, and actually this is now our next development. Samba TV gives us ACR data, which is essentially a microchip in TVs that will stream back loads of information from the programs that have been on, the adverts that audience sees, etc., etc., the time the TV was on. So imagine as an API for a TV. The big thing with this is it's 750,000 households. Compare that to the likes of Barb, which is in its tens of thousands.
Just take a step back here.
100%.
So the ACR is running on the TV.
On a smart
right.
TV.
So this would be anybody who's consuming YouTube via smart TV.
Anything on a TV.
Right, okay.
Anything on a TV,
Right.
microchip and weave it back. So what we want to do now is try and connect the worlds of TV and YouTube.
Interesting.
Which is where that siloed piece comes
Yeah.
in. So what we want to do here is there's 2 things we can start to do. One is plan. So what I mean by plan is, okay, you can come to me and go, I want to try and hit the audience that are watching Strictly Come Dancing. Can't hit them on traditional TV because it's a BBC programme, but actually, can you tell me what else they watch, what of interest they've got, and actually, can we just replicate that in a plan for YouTube? So extending that TV side of things. The other side of it is, what are my competitors doing on TV? Where are they appearing? How can we extend that and sort of conquest that on YouTube? So that's one side of it, but the big piece for me is the measure side.
Yeah.
So the measure piece is, again, going back with YouTube, YouTube is very top line in terms of what you get back. It's like, it's a VTR, it's clicks, and actually it's quite vague. The amount of money that comes in, we should really understand the success of any given campaign in YouTube. So this is where we can start to look at measure. And what we can start to do is take that ACR data, and we can basically, a traditional Venn diagram, is turn around and go, here's the audience that's watched your TV ad, here's the audience that's watched your TV and YouTube ad, and here's the audience that's only seen your YouTube ad. So suddenly we can come back with incrementality on a TV campaign, and suddenly we can price that back to say 30p per household of incremental users that have suddenly seen your YouTube ad and not your TV ad. So we can start to talk to TV teams and brands in TV in the world and say, extend that TV campaign across YouTube.
Okay, so you're adding an element of measurement beyond just reaching eyeballs effectively.
Exactly that. Exactly.
What does that mean then in terms for an advertiser? Like, because you talk about they're able to sort of build attribution effectively. Here's TV, here's YouTube, and TV, here's YouTube. So what does that mean to a typical agency who's kind of got TV and YouTube spend together?
Yeah, I think for us, and that's a big piece in the market at the moment, YouTube sort of sits a bit of everywhere with agencies. It sort of sits in digital team, sits in the TV team. And I think it's because of this problem. It's because it's siloed, and although it's a digital channel, it should naturally, as you say, it's part of connected TV. I think being able to do this and start to say, look, we can show incrementality, it opens the world to those TV teams, because all TV guys and all brands that are on TV, they want to ensure that they're hitting their audience. And if we can prove that we're hitting their audience and put it back down to a cost per household, a cost per user, suddenly you're understanding exactly how successful YouTube is for you, instead of just running it and just hoping that you're hitting the audience you want to hit.
Okay. And in terms of how that fits in, does that add an element of performance to this channel now? Because typically people would just be buying, as you say, would work on a typical Google metric, which is clicks and views, but what does that mean? But are you able to connect that back to real world outcomes as well? I'm just curious to see if that's the next step, or if that's something that's going to be the first step here. What's the next step?
Yeah, and I think that is, it steps into that performance world. I think everything you want to do in a digital world, it's always accountable. That's just the nature of digital. It's the data that we've got, it's always accountable to any brand. So there's always got to be an element of, am I driving success, am I driving performance? And I think, with incrementality, and we start to put it back to that cost feature, suddenly we will get to a world where, well, this is what I want to hit, and I want to hit this audience for this amount of money, and suddenly it will drive into that performance world. So yeah, I can see it moving there.
All right. And the agencies and marketers like this because it gives them sort of the proper insight and accountability that they've been looking from the space.
Exactly that. I think the big thing is it's making your YouTube money work
harder, right? Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, as simple as that. It's a case of you're starting to understand, and this is like looking back at this. Suddenly we've ticked off lack of insights because we've got the API. We've ticked off optimizations because we're doing that through the activation. We've ticked off media wastage because we're using fixability in the API for efficiency. We're now starting to tick off that siloed nature because actually we can start to connect the two worlds together through measurement, and finally through that fixability piece as well, we're ticking off brand safety.
Yeah.
And all of this just keeps going back to that whole circle. So, you know, our API can always feed back to our planning or feed back to our activation. So we're always making sure it's efficient. So suddenly we've gone from, as we said at the start, YouTube, we just run reach and frequency and we just hope we hit that audience, to now we know we're hitting your audience, we know this about them, they watch this, and this is how they haven't seen on TV.
So this feeds the whole trading practice.
Yes, 100%.
Right, so you're taking all these bits and pieces by the API and helping the trading team make decisions in terms of where they put the money.
Yeah, exactly that.
Interesting, one question I've got for you is actually, because at the very start I said YouTube was a CTV channel and people would shout that, but from what you see in the data, right, are a lot of people consuming YouTube via their smart TVs? Is that what you guys are seeing? Because I get the sense that's where things are going.
Yeah, 100%, a lot more. Their TV habits are completely changing, and you'll see that, you know, and if you look at any kind of statistic, you'll see that live TV is going down, and actually things like on demand, and especially YouTube, where you get to pick what you want to watch, you know, and user-generated content is just going up and climbing and climbing. And so actually having this ACR data, we'll be able to monitor that as well. So over the 6 to 12 months, what does that trend look like for YouTube? Are we seeing more and more? And hopefully, with the more and more households that sort of get into the Samba TV world, then we'll start to see even more trends and data across the YouTube world.
And do you think this will ultimately end in sort of outcomes-based stuff for YouTube, in the sense you could tie it back to a sale or tie it back to kind of, is that where you think we might end up going? I mean, this is brilliant that you're able to make this progress in YouTube, which effectively was just, you know, chuck your money in and hope for the best in many respects, and obviously with the scale it has, it probably was working, but nobody knew how it was working, type of thing. But do you think this is sort of a first step towards sort of outcomes based stuff where we're able to tie YouTube buys to real world outcomes effectively?
It's going to be the appetite of the brands and the marketeers. You know, Google are going to be very happy with the way it is at the moment. Throw the money at YouTube.
Of course they are.
Exactly.
They must hate you.
Yeah, exactly. Throw money at YouTube, I'm sure it will work. But
Yeah.
if you suddenly start to educate the market and say, look, we can do this far more intelligently, it's all there, then why not? Why can't we start to ask for outcomes from YouTube?
Well, the trading expertise at MiQ keeps marching on. So thanks, Stephen, for that run through. Great to see that this innovation can be applied to other channels, and I'm sure MiQ can help you guys spend your money on YouTube successfully. So Stephen, thank you again.
Thank you.
And that was Trader Talk TV, and we will see you next time.